This is a short overview of some of the issues that the Fort Lauderdale discussion group could start talking about. You may have heard of a guy named Thomas Friedman. He came up with the concept that the world is flat. And so one of his concepts is, what do we do in the face of global competition? He points out that in order to compete, we may have to do what's the equivalent of the double moonshot. We have to find a new source of energy to replace the problems we have with oil. And in order to do that, we have to reinvigorate our education system. And on a personal basis, what is your alternative to gasoline? That's something to discuss. Along the same mindset, Dan Pink came up with the 3 A's. AAA, automation, Asia, and abundance. If you want to come up with a new product to build new markets, you've got to come up with a product that can compete with Asia, automation, and abundance. In an abundant society, do we really need something? Well, that's the question. When discussing reform of the education system, we might want to consult with someone called Dennis Litke. Some links are given on the website. He talks about smaller schools, not smaller classrooms. How do we grade and assess people? Are these standardized tests really measuring the things that contribute to more effective workplaces? And Howard Gardner has something to say about that. Particularly, you want to perform the understandings. A typical essay often does not have the student explain what he knows. He may know a lot more about something than the confines of that particular essay question. The power of the mentor is understated in our current system. We do not see a lot of adults in schools. We see teachers. And so when you think of the type of adult that most students are around, it's not a mentor, it's not someone who's saying, well, this is how I do something. And so at a Litke school, there are more mentors, something to further discuss. What are the chances? Kilo, mega, giga, tera. There's a remarkable book, something called Freakonomics. The idea behind Freakonomics is that there are unusual things that we wouldn't not necessarily conclude because we've been taught otherwise. It attacks one's assumptions. And what are the chances? What are the risks and likelihoods in everyday life? These sorts of points might be the starting point of discussions, leading further to critical thinking on the internet and how to use websites to detect fraud. When discussing how to get new concepts across, perhaps you've heard of made to stick. Interesting discussion about how some ideas survive and others die. Talking about concepts that could be discussed. 12 years ago, Karen Armstrong came out with a book showing the history of religion and bringing it to popular culture. And the question for the discussion group is, how much should the history of religion inform our public debate? Should be an interesting topic. not knowing about certain types of extreme forms of Islam surprised a lot of people. Put something useful on that iPod. When you look at these small devices, you can, on a device this small, you can have a reading of the readings from Shakespeare. You can hear speeches in their original form, fireside chats, etc. How could we put something useful on iPods? Something to discuss. What policy changes could bring iPods or that kind of material into public schools? And if you know how to keep the mind flexible, well, we're doing it right now because we're pulling ourselves along into different ideas. We're doing what Feynman said, Richard Feynman, the atomic energy scientist, the pleasure of finding things out. Well, he certainly hopes, well, he's dead, but the concept is that there's new research that shows that our minds can remain flexible when put under certain types of stress, but they can't be something somewhat rigid like a crossword puzzle or Sudoku. It has to be something that engages other parts of the mind, and that's where something called the greeter program could be discussed. We have truth, knowledge, and how to tell the difference, etc. This right here is the multiple intelligences work by Howard Gardner. Interesting book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. These could be starting points of discussions, and I look forward to your participation. Again, phone number is 954-646-8246. Let's work together. Also works out to be OH MUCHO, if you would like to learn how to spell it. OH MUCHO. And the concept is 1 or 2 times per month, let's meet, perhaps at lunch, perhaps in an evening. Call me and let's discuss.